Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Custom Apparel Startups podcast. Trying to say it different every time now. It's weird. This is Mark Stevenson.
This is Mark Vila, and today we're here to talk about analyzing your competition.
Yes, we are.
Yes. So this is this is a great topic, and this is just something that comes up so often in our Facebook groups when we're doing sales demonstrations, when somebody just calls us up and is asking for marketing advice. People are always concerned about competition, and I think that it's worthy of an episode. And I always say this because it's true, but after you listen to this episode, you're going to take something out of it that's going to get you more business.
Hey, this one will, or at least maybe it will bring down your blood pressure a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Give you some hope if you're not selling as much as you thought you might, or if you're just just getting started. If you haven't gotten your machine yet or just looking at the business, man, I think you should listen to this episode multiple times, because it's that frequently it's just you have perceived competition. And we're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. You've got perceived competition. It's not real competition. So you'll be sweating stuff that you don't need to worry about at all.
Right. I kind of consider it like two kinds of competition. There's anxiety creating competition. And this is just signs that you see, something you heard of, a website you may have visited, and you are just very concerned that this is the competition that's preventing you from growing, or they may be coming after your customers, and nothing has happened yet, or right. Maybe it happened one time out of 100. And that's something that you'll learn about in this episode. And then the second is your actual competition. These are folks that frequently you run into, and your potential customer is saying, "Oh, I've also talked to so-and-so," and every once in a while you lose a job to them.
Yeah. And I mean, that does happen. We're not going to sugarcoat that at all. It just happens a lot less than you might think. Mm-hmm. And one of the points that I'd like to get across in this particular episode is there are a lot of people who look into and really are interested in getting into the custom t-shirt business, for example, and they use competition as an excuse not to. So they'll see, somebody selling $10 t-shirts in their area, and they'll use that. Well, I can't find a way to make money selling t-shirts for $10, or for $8, or they'll look at the numbers that we talk about in our podcast and online, and they'll say things like, no one can sell for that price. I obviously can't get into this business. So please keep these things in mind when we're talking about analyzing competition, whether you're in business or not.
Yeah. So this is something you do before you're in business. This is something you do when you first get started. And this is something that you should be doing reasonably frequently, whether it's, every 6 months or every year or every quarter. That's going to really depend on your business, but you should be looking at your competition, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of why you'll stay ahead if you're doing it on a regular schedule, because a lot of businesses aren't.
Yep, I agree. And there are some kind of ancillary benefits to doing this competitive analysis that you've got pinned out here, Mark. And one of them that I like is you really have the opportunity to improve what you do when you look at the competition. That's one thing that we're going to go over. Mm-hmm. Also, you can be sure you're actually charging enough for the products if you do this. And you get to know your strength, where are you better than everybody else?
Yeah. Yeah. And the amazing thing is I've done this plenty of times for ColDesi and other businesses that I've worked with or for. And 100% of the time, there are 2 or 3 or more things in the business that are so strong or so great that you've never given yourself credit for. And these are the things that you should be shouting constantly. And we can get into examples later, but if you're really good at one thing, whatever that might be, customer service or art or providing a quality product or 100 other things, that should be something you should be talking about every single time, especially when you do some competitive analysis and realize that this is a strength of yours.
Agreed. And I'll give you a quick example. Just this morning, I was chatting with a customer on Facebook and a ColDesi customer. They bought things from us in the past, and they were looking at a new direct-to-film printer. And, they were surprised at the price that we charge for our direct-to-film printers versus one that she sees like on eBay that you can buy directly from China. And, that's a circumstance. Well, yeah, that machine is a lot more expensive, a lot less expensive. And that actually gave me the opportunity to recognize again, to list out the reasons that you want to buy from ColDesi, and just go through like, these are all the reasons. And, by the end of the chat, and, she was like, I've got a lot to think about, because the value scenario makes it worth it. I mean, totally worth it. So as you go through these too, keep that hope in mind.
Yeah. I had a separate example, but similar. I had a landscaping company that I worked with, and he, what do you do for a living? Oh, I do marketing. Oh, I've been, this, that, and the other. And he said, and essentially the conversation just got into, I said, well, what are you particularly good at? Like, why do you think customers stick with you? And because I said, there's like a million landscape companies.
Yeah.
How can anybody stay in business? Literally. Right? Like this is like the concept. Like, how can anybody stay in business? How can anybody, beat the competition? And he said, so he sat there, and I said, because honestly, like, you have a nice mower. You know how to cut, you know how to trim well. Like, so what is it? And he said that for him, he said, I am really diligent about calling my customers back and texting them and emailing them. So if they email them, I definitely will reply to that email sometime during the day. Like between stops, I stop and I answer texts and phone calls. And he said, because people have a lot of questions or they're worried about a lot of things. And I just always reply to them. And he said, everybody that I talk to always kind of seems to stick around. And I was like, that's it. I was like, that's your thing. And I said, you should just talk about that all the time. If you meet somebody, you should just say, listen, have you ever had a company that you've worked with before? Like you feel like you can never reach them? Not me. You text me, I will respond to you within, like, if not right away, within hours. Yeah. And he was just very encouraged by that. And he said, all the time I was focusing on all these other things when the strongest thing I had, I was already doing. Yeah. I never really talked about it.
That's great.
So let's get into it then. What are the steps to creating a competitive analysis and doing something with that?
Yeah. And you should write this down, of course, when you start doing this, because you're going to identify your competition, all of it, like anybody that you can think of that you would consider competition. And you could even ask your customers whether or not they've shopped at any other places and what that competition might be.
Yeah, and we've kind of put competition into really like three categories, right? Yep. So there is all competition. So if somebody is going to buy a shirt, where can they buy it from? And we're going to specifically talk about local business here, I think, right, Mark?
Yeah, although I think Walmart is a good example.
Yeah,
just to kind of get it out of the way.
Right, and they're local because somebody could drive there.
Right. As opposed to going online.
I'm speaking not in terms of all competition could mean like every website that sells T-shirts.
Yes, which is a lot.
But it's
more than 7.
You've got to do a little bit of knowledge of saying like, am I a local business? Am I a niche business? What's my niche? Is it fishing shirts? So I'm just going to look up fishing shirts. And then but you also might be a local business and you focus on locally. So what's all the local competition? Walmart, Bass Pro Shop, right? These are places where if a small business, if there's a golf course in your area and they want all their employees to wear white golf shirts, they could go to Bass Pro Shop or Walmart and buy white polo shirts, right?
Yep. If you use fishing as an example,
Mhm.
I actually used it in the ColDesi playbook that I'm working on right now. And you can buy a fishing themed t-shirt for $11.64 at Walmart right now. And then you can go buy a shirt with a similar design at Pelagius or something. It's a very high-end fishing accessory store. You can buy a very similar shirt, same number of colors, same quality, for $36. So that's your competition. That would be the Bass Pro versus Walmart for just a simple fishing shirt.
There you go. There you go. It's a good point. And so all competition is just everywhere. What's if we're gonna say local for t-shirts and polos, and this could be for anything. You could sell home decor decorations, promotional items. Somebody could go to Target and buy a bunch of pink mugs there,
Right.
and that's what they're going to use to give their customers, right? So that's like all competition. Then there's your close competition. Close are businesses that do like what you do, but not the same of what you do.
Okay. You have to expand on that one a little bit.
Yes. So if you do direct to garment printing, a close competition could be a screen print shop. Okay. If you sell custom mugs and tumblers, a close competition might be a place that sells other gift items like that could be customized, but maybe they don't do anything like that. Maybe they just do apparel, right? Or they or do home decor. But somebody could choose if you kind of pick some avatars in your head, which we've spoke about, some of my potential customers. And if one of my potential customers is people planning birthday parties, right? Actually, before I get into it, let's just say direct competition quickly. Direct competition are people who do like exactly what you do, like almost literally.
Someone else with another DTG printer.
Yes, they sell like the same exact product. They have the same offering. So in this case, party goers are my customers. All competitions like Target, Walmart in my area, because somebody could go there and they can buy, they want to give a party gift, and they can go there and they can just buy a bunch of pink mugs and fill them with candy, and that's the party gift.
Yep.
Right. Close competition could be there's a store down the road that sells like coasters and hats and stuff like that with custom stuff on it. So they could go there and they can buy a coaster and a sun visor with like their initials on it or something. Right. Direct competition, because you sell mugs and tumblers that are customized, would be another shop locally that specifically sells customized mugs and tumblers.
Yep, I got it.
Okay. So we identify this stuff and then we kind of make a little list and categorize them. Don't go crazy, right? Because you could also say that a completely oddly off the wall business could also be competition for you.
They could decide not to do the party favors and just rent a clown for the day.
Right. So
they can do that. The clown guy is not your competition. Don't worry about his pricing.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to just use some logic, and this is going to be so different for everybody. It's really hard to narrow it down, but hopefully in that example, it's good enough to get you in the thought process. You make a list and categorize them, all close, direct.
Yep. I think that makes sense. And I would start with the direct myself, if you can find them.
Right. I mean, this is just an exercise you should do. You should spend an hour. You're not gathering too much information yet. You're making a list, you're Google searching, you're asking friends, you're driving around. This identification process could be a short-term thing that you're doing behind your desk, and it can also be a long-term thing that you just pay attention as you drive around town and as you attend parties. Ask people, where'd you get that? Stuff like that. Yeah. So this isn't something you do once and you're done with. So now that you've made a list and you've categorized them, we want to start to gather some information.
Okay. And so I would say the basics for all competition. So what is the competitive item that they might buy there? So for example, if you're using the party favor thing, then heck, a Walgreens might be your competition if you're in a small town. And what would somebody buy there? If it's a Target, if your demographic, everybody shops at Target, and you sell party favors, what would they buy at Target? And just get a general idea on what those items are and how much they cost.
That's great. And then you move into your close competition, and it's similar, just like we put in the example. What else do they offer? Why somebody might choose to go there instead of even shopping at your place or calling you up? What's their offering? What would somebody spend there? What would they get for their money?
And so that should be pretty easy the closer to your direct competition that you get. Like you'd earlier used kind of the screen printer, right? They would be close competition, because if you've got a DTG printer, they're not going to sell 5 shirts to anybody, right? But they're still in the shirt business. Why would you've got to know, why would somebody buy from a screen printer in general? What is that pricing like, and what is the experience like? What is that customer experience?
And you can use a dollar amount as well. And during this analysis, you could say, if we're talking a party planner as the example, what could they get for $300 here?
Okay, I like that.
So what could they get for $300 at the high-end shop that sells coasters and hats? Well, maybe they're particularly expensive. Very, very nice. Maybe they're doing rhinestone hats and coasters made out of aluminum, gold plated and beautiful things.
Gold plated coasters.
For $300 though, they're maybe getting one coaster for each guest. Right. If they go to Target, they may get a bunch of little things that are not that interesting. And if they go to your direct competition, well, they can get the custom mug with a custom, hand towel stuffed in it, and something, and a pen, or something to that effect.
Right. And that's when you get into the real details. You want to dig in as much as you can.
Right.
To find out what they're offering.
Yes. And when you get into the direct competition level, when you're getting the basics, really start to get into, what do they sell? What prices do they advertise? Do they focus on particular niches? What is there anything that you see that's obvious, that stands out, that they push, that they sell, that they offer, just in general? And we're not in comparison mode yet. You're just kind of gathering the ideas, and you want to learn as much as you can. When we're talking about gathering information, you should spend probably the least amount of time on the all competition. Just get a basic idea.
Yep.
A little bit more on the closer competition, and majority of the time on the direct competition.
So when you say, when you're looking at direct competition, Mark, and just getting the basics, what do they sell? Are you talking about like the kinds of t-shirts that they sell, the kind of decoration that they offer? Give me an idea of what you're looking for in each of these.
Okay, great. So nothing specific.
Okay.
And just everything in general that you can gather without doing a deep dive yet, because we'll do a deep dive later. So what do they sell? They sell t-shirts, mugs, signs.
Okay.
Now, what prices do they advertise? No advertised prices. Do they appear to focus on any niche products? There's a lot of sports stuff on their website. I'm not really seeing anything besides sports stuff.
Okay.
Is there anything you can see that they learn that you can learn from them? And they put a lot of focus on creating custom art for you.
And that's good. What's their main thing? Yeah,
so
that's kind
far.
of what's their main thing, right?
Right. So then, when you start to look at this, that you may come to the conclusion in the end that I'm not going to dive much deeper into them, because I'm selling to party goers and to birthday parties and bar mitzvahs and wedding type of things. And these are all the things I'm doing. And this one particular competition, everything seems to be sports centric, and I'm not really doing sports.
Gotcha. I'm events, they're sports. It kind of.
So maybe or maybe not, they might not be really anybody worth going deeper into, but this is kind of part of it. Now, in a small town, or an area where there's not many places to go, they may focus on sports, but they may do anything.
Right.
So you may run into them in a bit larger area. You may just eventually push them to the side and say, I'm probably never running into them.
Yep. Okay. I like that. That makes sense.
Next, we're going to gather information on social media.
So a good place to start is if they've got a website, you can look at the bottom or on one of the sides and just look for their social media icons. You can Google their Facebook page, basically, see if they have an Instagram account, TikTok, things like that. And really, that's a great place to get to find out what kind of a relationship these people have with their clients, because a lot of times the reviews will show up on their social accounts. So you'll get a better idea of what they're like to do business with. And you'll also get a sense of how involved they are in that particular media. Like, how often do they post? Do they answer anybody's questions? I know you shouldn't focus on the number of followers they have, but you can look at the numbers and just see, like, if it's 7, then no one goes to that page, then they're not actually using it. If it's 10,000, then they probably have a lot of fake followers. But at least they're active. So you'll learn a lot from some companies' social media pages.
Yeah, and this is a great opportunity to learn from them, for one.
Yep.
What do they post? What image do they show? Do they appear, again, going back, do they appear to show any prices online? Do they appear to have any niches that they work with? And really, one of the reasons that in our notes we say don't look at the number of followers is you can easily get swallowed up in these numbers. You go to a competition, oh my gosh, they have 20,000 followers. I have 19, 17.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's no way I can compete, right? So look at their posts. What's the interaction like? Is anybody ever responding or liking? So if you go into their post and they have 1, 2 likes, almost no responses, who cares about those followers? Nobody's looking, nobody's liking, nobody's interacting, nobody's saying great job, nobody's saying this is a really cool shirt, I can't wait to get them. If none of that's really happening, then I just wouldn't be focused on that number of followers. I would look at interaction. Conversely, if you see every post, they're having lots of conversations happening, and you're brand new to social media, then this is a great opportunity to learn from them. What are they doing? What are they saying? What are they asking?
There's also a magic little spot inside if you're doing research on Facebook, where it will actually show you if they're running Facebook ads, and it will let you look at those ads. So you probably won't see many, but there are definitely people out there that are doing okay with Facebook ads. And you can see what the competition is doing if you look.
Yeah, it's great. And it's just a great opportunity to just, again, you're just learning from them. What's a little bit of information about them, and how can you use this later on?
And also, by the way, don't assign any judgment here. So if you come across somebody and you go to their website and it's okay, and then you get to their Instagram account and it's amazing, like professional models and great t-shirts, and just everything looks great. Like, don't close your shop, right? There are, because you're going to go to Facebook, or you're going to go to the web, or you're going to go to a different niche, you're going to walk into their store and see a different story. There's opportunities all over the place. It's just good to know that, maybe social media profiles, Instagram, they do a fantastic job. What can I especially learn from that to try to compete?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And we've mentioned that you may have already found them on the web, and or you found their website through social media, or you found their website in the first place. But right. The next place you'll want to go, not necessarily in this order, by the way, we chose social media and then websites. You could do the opposite, but you're going to want to gather some information off their websites too. And this is similar to social media gathering. How does it look?
Yeah.
What's the quality of it like? What are they showing? What are they showing off? You could do a little bit of, how does this compare to mine? Don't get swallowed up in it again. Plenty of websites. There's website that sells like holiday decoration stuff. And Mark Stevenson's know that this year, every year I'm a bit obsessed with it, but this year's a new venture for me. And this one particular website, the quality of the site is not that great.
Right.
Not that great. Customer service A plus, pricing A plus, quality of product A plus, website not that great. Another company out there, their website is super clean, beautiful. Like you could tell they just revamped that like yesterday.
Yeah.
And forums and reviews, nobody likes doing business with them. Only if they have to. Only if they're the only one with the item in stock.
Right.
Okay. So they may be really good at sourcing products. That's how they stay in business. So it's just something to consider. You don't beat yourself up about it, but learn from it. Okay.
Yeah. I also think when you're doing this, it's important to look at both, on the desktop and on your phone.
Great.
So when you're looking at somebody else's website, they definitely can behave differently. And some people even still have completely different websites from scratch on that they have designed for mobile versus on the desktop.
Great point. It's important to look at both. And while you're online, what can you learn about that? How big's the company? How long have they been around? Do they have pricing online? Do they have any niches that they offer? What products do they sell? Are they already aware of what they're really good at? And are they already shouting that out at the top of their lungs?
Right.
Like we mentioned earlier about the communication with the landscaping company. Do they already know something about that they keep repeating over and over again on their website that they know is a strength of theirs? They're telling you their strengths right there.
Yeah.
So make sure you write that down. Anything that you see mentioned multiple times is definitely worthy of a little bit of note and a little bit of paying attention.
And I think also it's important for your competition when you get down into direct, especially, is to make notes of whether or not they show prices online. I found a lot of local t-shirt shops here in the Tampa Bay area just don't. Like you have to fill out a form to quote. And others are more the DTG model where they're happy to take one order and you can upload your artwork. So depending on your business method, you could easily find what everybody's charging for stuff in your area. So, and what that experience is like, because it's all online, versus, okay, if I want to order something, how crappy is that form you have to fill out? And it's usually pretty bad.
No, you got me thinking about something here, actually. With the social media and looking at websites and getting into this analysis, I would really probably not bother with the all competition much at all.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Like outside of just, I sell polos and I want to know how much Walmart sells Moisture Wick polos for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, do that. But yeah. I mean, you don't need to go to their social media and look how Walmart does social media.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't need to like go into their website and deep dive into all the offers because they're not super competition, but maybe just knowing, okay, how much is a golf style shirt at Dick's Sporting Goods? That's a Nike. How much do they sell it for? Okay. How much can I buy a Nike or a generic brand that's very similar? How much can I buy that for and decorate it and sell it to my customer?
Yeah.
Because that's good knowledge to have, because you can turn that into a sales pitch later on.
Yeah, I like that. And I do have one burning question though, all of a sudden, and that is, does Walmart corporate have an Instagram account that everyone follows? Are there a lot of people out there that are waiting to see what the new release at Walmart is going to be and whatever they...
Yeah. I would say that the answer that I do know is just about every major brand out there recognizes they need to have some sort of a social media presence.
Yes.
And I've not heard much about Walmart and their Instagram, but I do know that they focus a lot on their LinkedIn.
Okay.
And we've discussed this in the past. They spend a lot of time focusing on their employees and their technology and why Walmart is a good place to work and why Walmart is a good place to invest your money.
Interesting.
And so they're not necessarily selling t-shirts on there. This is a complete side note, but it's interesting. They're not selling t-shirts on there, but they are selling, why would you want to have a career at Walmart? Because not everybody, surprise, not everybody that works at Walmart stocks shelves.
Right.
Like
somebody should write that down and share it with their friends.
Yeah.
It really should.
Like they have marketing professionals, they have sales development people, they have people who are engineers at trucking routes. So there's very high-end careers that they want to appeal to those people, and LinkedIn is a place they do that.
I'm glad you clued me in. I was going to call them and see if they wanted some help with their pay-per-click advertising.
Okay. Yes. They don't have anybody.
But I guess it's already filled. I guess they probably got that worked out.
So, but digressing back, you don't spend a lot of time looking at that. Now, you can learn from those brands, of course. There's always knowledge to be gained, but really at this point in time, we're focusing on who is the direct competition and potentially some close competition.
Right. And, just to go back through the websites, for example, since I trailed this off a little bit, how do they look on your laptop, desktop, tablet, phone? What information do they show on the website? Do they display pricing and shipping times and things like that? How does all of that compare to what you show? Is there anything that you can learn from it? Is there anything you don't like about their website? Is there anything that you really love? And I like the idea that the website and the social will also reveal their niche, and what their focus is. Like Mark Vila said, if somebody has your exact equipment, same storefront, same marketing budget or whatever it is, but they're focusing on high school sports and you're focused on the event market, then you're not going to run into each other. If they're closer, like, then you should see, how big is the company? How long have they been around? Is there a personal story about the owner or the employees? Are they really community oriented? Do they have all of the same t-shirt products, or do they sell the same mugs? Is what's unique?
Yes. And one important thing to mention where we are now is we're not getting too deep into comparing ourselves yet. We're information gathering. We're still in that stage. Yep. So you can, have in your head, oh, I wish I would have done this, but I'm not there yet. I'm gathering information, because there's a reason for that. What you want to do is, theoretically, you're going to have 5 companies, 2 companies, whatever the number is, that are your close competition. And you're going to have notes that are in order, right? Social media notes, website notes, reviews. By the way, we didn't say reviews, but reviews are part of this as well. You mentioned it earlier on social media, but Google reviews, Yelp, that's part of the search on social. And then you get to stand up and look down at the table with all of your notes. And now you have a bird's eye view of everything. And then that's where we're going to get into the analysis. So good. I think it is important that we're still gathering information. And there's one more thing we need to do for gathering information, and that would be to shop them, secret shop them.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. And it could be done by yourself or someone you trust. You could pay somebody, or it could be somebody but it needs to be a trusted person who's going to do it well. And you contact them, fill out the form on the website, give them a call, ask for a quote. Find out how quick can you deliver. Look for hidden fees. Is there a setup fee? Right. Is there an art fee? Is there a screen fee? Is there a delivery fee? Is there a first-time customer fee? Find that out. Right. And the reason I mention that is there was this is probably 2019. I was sitting with, we were looking at blanks and prices of blanks with Brian in the office. Mm-hmm. Him and I were in his office or mine, and we were looking at this, and he's like, gosh, I can't believe that this company sells a completed hat for $19, one hat. And he said, this particular hat, our cost is like $17. how do they even do it? And we're thinking, oh, it's a loss leader product,
Right.
or oh, maybe they have a direct connect with the manufacturer. We're getting into all this stuff. And I said, I'm just going to buy one and get it.
Yeah.
So I go to buy it. There was like a $25 art fee by the time we got into the basket.
Oh, right.
So the hat wasn't $19.
Yeah.
The hat was, and then there was like something like there was like some fee for each hat.
Right.
It was like a $2 fee for each hat. Right. So the advertising made it look like the hat was $19, but the hat was actually 19 plus 2. So the hat was really like 23 or 24.
Yep.
And then they were charging an art fee and all this stuff. So in the end, that singular hat that looked like it was $19 was actually like 45.
Jeez.
Which, okay, now we can understand how somebody can sell one hat for $45.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to look at that with your competition, find out, what are there any hidden fees or extra costs versus what they advertise online, and you just straight up ask. I went on your website and I saw you would do 50 shirts for this amount of dollars. Are there any other fees I should be considering when I'm making a budget on this, for art or anything else like that? Oh yeah, if you don't have your own art, no, I just know that we need like a bulldog and it has to say fighting dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, we would charge $50 for that art, or whatever the number is, right?
Yeah, I like that. I also think that that you should try to shop them in multiple ways. Like you said, Mark, is to, if you're on the website and they have a chat icon, chat with them and see what that response is like. See if anyone responds, fill out the contact form, and see if anyone ever gets back to you. If it's on Facebook, go to their Facebook page, go to their Instagram account, and just send them a message and see if they respond. And because it's not just the product and the price, it's also the experience in doing business with them. So like in Mark's story, how likely are you going to be to go back to that company with the not $19 hat? Probably not. It was too much effort to find out how much you were actually going to spend. So and make sure that you ask questions about minimum quantities. If you're going to be great at selling one shirt yourself, then see what they charge for one shirt.
Right. And any other detail you can, what brand, what kind of shirt are you using?
Yeah.
I'm really concerned about shirts that shrink. Whatever this is going to be all unique for you. You have to consider what your own questions are going to be. I'm concerned what shirts are going to shrink. How are they going to be? See how they answer that question. Oh, well, all shirts shrink. If that's their answer, then they're probably selling a really cheap shirt.
Right.
Right. So that's a piece of information. Oh no, we make sure that we only sell shirts that are, okay. If you put it in the dryer on like high heat, we might see some shrinking, but for the most part, we never get that complaint. Okay. They probably are selling a really nice shirt.
Right.
And see if you can find out brands, delivery times, all that information, gather what you can, and learn what that experience is going to be like if you were a customer.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to say if they respond with it's a 3.5 ounce tri blend with 50% cotton, 30% poly, the rest in rayon. If they respond with details, they're using a good shirt.
No, there you go.
They'll definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure. And this is all just great information to gather. And you also will learn a little bit about their sales process, about customer service. And I also am a fan of rating that yourself. If you're going to shop 5 people, make a little scale, give them stars. And write questions that are good for. Hopefully you've listened to a bunch of episodes of this podcast and you've heard episodes where we talk about how to answer the phone and how to reply to emails, right? Because we've talked about that stuff in the past. Yes. So maybe you put on your notes for business that one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm super friendly when I talk on the phone, right? And you're thinking that, so put that as a rating for them. How well do they answer the phone? And give them stars. T-shirt shop.
Right.
I'm not going to give them 1 star, because at least they said they were a t-shirt shop.
They didn't say, "This is Bob."
2-star. Yeah.
This is Bob.
Yeah, I forget what business I called recently, and the guy just goes, "Yellow."
Green.
And it was friendly, but I was like, I'm trying to call, such and such.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like,
I hate that.
Oh, yeah. And I said, okay, is that you? Oh, sorry. And I was like, gosh, 1 star. Like, I mean, come on. I guess he was kind of friendly, but so star all this stuff, how friendly were they in answering questions? Yeah. How clear were they about pricing? Were they trying to rush you off the phone? Just kind of find all that out and rate it.
Yeah. And you know what, if you want to go the extra step and you want to invest a little money in the process, go ahead and order the shirts. If it's a close competitor and everything seems good, then maybe have someone else, buy 2 shirts with a specific design on it. So you can see, how's the delivery experience? Mm-hmm. Did they ship on time? Is the quality as good as that sounded like they were going to send you? What's the quality of the print? How does it feel? It gives you, when you create your competitive plan later, it gives you even more kind of ammunition, because you get to say things like, you know what? I actually ordered 2 shirts from them and they were pretty good. Not as good as mine, which is why mine are a little bit, more expensive, but I'm holding one in my hand right now. And here's what I like about mine better. So you can add it into your competitive plan later on if you go through the whole process.
Right. And you do or do not have to buy things.
Right. You don't.
Right. So I want to be, clear that if you're shopping for 50 shirt, 50 hat orders, I don't expect you to spend $500 to test your competition. Right. So that might not be your niche. If your niche is DTG printing, as we mentioned, with selling 1 shirt, buy a shirt, spend $30, see what it's like, see what they deliver. So you make those calls on your own. There's no right or wrong way to do that. You have to decide.
Agreed.
So now that we've gone through and you've gathered as much information as possible, hopefully you've got it in an order, in maybe even a spreadsheet, something where you can look at it and know where everything is. Now it's time to analyze this. And I would put an analysis section at the bottom, like a summary. So what are they great at? What are they good at? What are they really weak at? What was your favorite thing that you dealt with them on or you saw? What was something that you really didn't like or you think customers wouldn't like, right?
Yeah, I think it might even be good to rate yourself next to it.
Okay, great.
So in other words, if they're really great at the website, they get 5 points. And your website right now is 3 points. So, go ahead and rate yourself in comparison. So by the time you're down to creating your competitive plan, it's already mapping it out for you. You can look, oh, here are all the areas. It looks like I'm consistently bad over here. You can identify that as a place to improve.
Right. And you can even do like a little versus chart if you want, with check marks, website, them, social media, me, pricing, and you can go back and forth, and maybe you put a check for both because it's kind of equal. And what I don't want to happen is you can get sucked into a mental black hole here when you look at some of these companies, right? Like they're going to be website better, social media better, pricing better, offering better, customer service A+, delivery faster. It's going to be like, you may run into those, and it's going to be scary at that point in time. And if that does happen, then the last thing you always have when analyzing your competition that nobody can ever beat is you're the only you.
Right.
They never have you. So if they win all the check marks, you 100% of the time get me. And you just know if you're a pretty cool person or a nice person or friendly, or you have a bunch of friends and relatives, people are just going to do business because it's you. And then you can improve all those other check marks over time.
Yeah. So, I mean, and lots of reasons not to get blacked out. First of all, if you do find somebody that's significantly better on every front, congratulations, you have a lot to work on.
Yeah.
And also, not 100% of the people looking for a custom t-shirt in the area is going to call them.
Right.
Okay. I am confident that while Mark Vila really likes his lawn guy and he does a good job, he's probably, odds are, he's not the absolute best optimal lawn guy within a 50-mile radius of Mark's house.
Right.
Right. That's not how did you get the lawn guy? I saw the ad. He was across the street. We started talking, that's how most people choose, so you don't have to be better in all these categories because you're not actually in real life competing with everyone 100% of the time.
Right. And this is a funny thing, but there is in lawn, we'll use that. There is a company who's been in business 10 years that consistently is one of the worst lawn companies to do business with in the area. I mean, this isn't a real company, but there is. Somebody's got to be the worst, right? If you pick 100 ways to rank lawn companies and you gave them all points, somebody has to come in last.
Yeah.
And that person who comes in last doesn't mean they're out of business next year.
Right.
You know what I mean? They may have been in business 10 years and they're just always kind of towards the bottom.
Yeah.
Why? It's just, they work in an area and they happen to be there and they're in business, and that doesn't make them necessarily great at anything. So, and chances are they're not doing any of this competitive analysis. They're not listening to podcasts and how to get better. They're not taking training on equipment and how to make things better. They're not improving themselves. So you're already doing something better than the worst mug or t-shirt maker in the area that's still in business.
Right. All right. So let's talk about creating your competitive plan.
Right. So when we're as you're writing this stuff down, I want to make sure that I just have a couple examples. I want to make sure we read through them. So what are some things that you can write down that are important notes to make about these companies, right? Maybe they don't deliver anything in less than 2 weeks, but you can do it in a day.
Check.
Or 2 days. Maybe they offer really cheap shirts that are in stock, but you offer higher end, better quality stuff that it takes you a few days to get.
Right.
Maybe they advertise really low prices, but they've got a ton of hidden fees. So actually your prices are the same. They might appear to be a very diverse shop by the name of the company, but when you look at their social media, they're really just focusing on a single niche like sports.
Right.
These are all things so once you learn all this stuff about everybody and take as many notes as you can, then you can actually create like a real competitive plan on how you're going to find your space in the competition. Not always beating the competition or going up against them, but finding your space in the pie of business that's to be had in your area.
Hey, you know what? I just want to mention one more thing that I almost forgot, and that is while you're doing the competitive analysis, if you have the opportunity to talk to people, ask them if they produce that stuff in-house.
Okay, good.
So, because that could be a very important competitive advantage to you if you go to a screen print shop and you ask about printing, just getting 1 or 2 shirts, and they say yes, then, ask them if they print that in-house too.
And watch for tricky answers.
Yeah.
We do. Our warehouse is actually located in Lakeland.
Right.
Okay then. Well, I'm in Lando Lakes. That's almost an hour away.
Right.
Okay. So there's something to be said about that.
Yep.
Okay. So first things first, you're at this point in time, you should know who the real competition is. Okay. You've scratched off that company who, after diving deeper, they just only do sports.
Right.
I know it's nothing in their name. They don't really describe it like that, but every single example, picture, social media, thing on their website, even words they use.
Yeah.
Knock it out of the park with our hats.
Right.
They're focusing on sports. I'm not.
or they, it turns out to be a screen print shop and they don't want to talk to anybody that's not going to order at least 48 pieces of anything.
Right. Right. And you're going to do some small stuff, um, so, knock out some of those and try to just focus less on them. You've learned lessons. You've learned things about how they do things on social media or website that you want to do one day yourself or right away. But they're not really competition. And then now you've also pulled out some strengths, like we mentioned before. One of your competition who seems direct advertises really low prices, but there's a ton of hidden fees.
Right.
So, one of your things is transparent pricing.
Yeah. No hidden fees.
Right. So if this is one of your strengths, you shout it out everywhere. On the front page of your website, great quality t-shirts, transparent pricing.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Right. You also might be able to deliver quicker. Right. And again, you shout that out. You can put it on your website, or maybe you don't write that down, but you talk about it every time you have a phone call with somebody or an email. By the way, one of the things that's great about when you work with us is we make it a point to deliver things quickly. So we deliver 90% of our orders within 3 days, or whatever the number, right?
Yeah.
And the other 10% we deliver one day longer than that. And one of the things that I did when I wanted to start this business was I was sick and tired of everybody having to order things like a month in advance.
Yeah.
Because some of these companies will say most of the time we deliver in 2 weeks. Sometimes it's 3 or 4. To me, that says you deliver in 4 weeks every time. So I
love that. I love that. Like, the idea is that you find those advantages. You make it a keystone of your website if you think they're real competition. I love the idea that you're going to mention it in phone calls and in meetings. Like, you could even add that to the way you answer your phone.
Yeah.
It could be, hey, thanks for calling Bob's T-shirts, where we deliver in 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Right. And whatever, it might be. You could talk about your niche. If you know that you have a unique niche in the area and nobody else is really focusing on it, you dive deeper into the niche. All of this information can be shared on your website, on your social media. You could do email blasts. You could do local ads. We've talked about doing all that type of advertising and such in other episodes of the podcast, but talk about that you sell shirts that are top quality, a home of the shirts that don't shrink,
Yeah, I love
talk
that.
about how you do digital prints, do full color prints. What's that mean? Print your dog, print your baby, print anything.
Cool. I like that each one of these advantages that you say very obviously plants the idea that other businesses don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like ColDesi is very proud of the fact that they do. We've got the best self-paced online training program in the industry for each one of our products. And we talk about our training and our support all the time. And when we do that, in this case, it happens to be very true. Everyone else assumes that our competition does not provide training. And in many cases, it is true, but it's just when you say something, if I point out that I can deliver a shirt in under 3 days, if it's an order for under 10 pieces, then it just assumes, well, I'm going to call everybody else and it's going to be a week.
Right. And the best part about it is if you've done research and that everybody is really slow in delivery and you're fast, then you create an assumption, and some people might just stop and just say, okay, great, I want it in 2 days, I'll work with you. Other people might say, oh, I'm going to shop. And then they call, how quick? 2 weeks. He was right.
Right.
And the thing about ColDesi and training is, it's been a decade, right? Almost probably where we started offering online training.
Yeah.
And it was part of, we just realized that nobody else really has this. Yeah. And it's every day, basically, since that past 10 years, there's been something new added or changed or updated on that online training. And we have such a diverse amount of products that it's not just really easy for our competition to just say, we're just going to make online training for 20 products.
Right.
Because it's thousands of
it's
hours
a project.
of work.
It's hours. Yeah.
And you can do that stuff with yourself too. So if you're really developing a niche and you, okay, I want to focus on high quality polo shirts. How am I going to do that? Well, first I'm going to go to my wholesaler and I'm going to buy I'm going to call them and ask them, I want like the best shirt you have. Okay. These are a top 5. I'm buying all top 5. I'm going to put them on my embroidery machine. I'm going to put them in the wash. I'm going to wear them. I'm going to ask people, which one do you like this? There's going to be a friend of mine has a small business. I'm going to give him one.
Yeah.
Which shirt do you like better, A or B? Right. And now like you've spent time learning about like the best polo shirt. And now you have like 3 keystone shirts you sell. The cotton one, the moisture wicking one, and the luxury one. These are the 3 you sell. And then you start pushing this luxurious, the best shirts, premium polos. Nobody beats our polos, all that stuff. Right. And that's what you're
ask me how I know.
Ask me how I know. Exactly. And then if your competition decides they want to get into the premium polo thing, you've been doing this research now since before you started for months, and now you're in business a year. You've got a year's worth of research on these shirts. You found out this one that looks great. The collars do all like this after a bunch of washes and they curl up. So that shirt is great as a great out of the box shirt, but not a great 3-month shirt. And and your competition is going to take 3 months to learn that.
Yeah, I like that.
So great. And then I guess the wrap up on it is, as we started saying, this is ongoing. You repeat it, you do it again later. You don't just stop. Your competition will get a new website eventually. They'll change some of their policies and prices, so you kind of keep up. Most businesses don't do this.
Yeah. I mean, almost no businesses do this.
Yeah. And the reason why they don't is, a couple things, I think, at least. There's a lot of business out there and a lot of people can just get overwhelmed busy and then they don't have to do any of that.
Right.
And they get stuck at a growth point and they're there.
Yeah.
And then, and that's good for you because they're full.
Right.
So you can analyze all you want about them and all that stuff, but they can't really take many orders unless it's booked a month out. And you've just learned that. And then so that's one reason. Another is that it just takes time. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably looking to grow your business. And this is one of the ways that companies that achieve great growth do it.
Yeah. I think if you're willing to invest the time in educating yourself by listening to stuff like this, by reading business books, by finding out more about e-commerce or marketing or inventory management or how to handle a customer, if you're doing any of that stuff, this is kind of the logical next step. Mm-hmm. And when you do this, if you do a constant survey of your local competition or your direct competition, you'll also know when there's new players in the market and how you may have to pivot or who else is new that you can learn new things from and copy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's honestly, it can be a lot of fun. Honestly, it's really good. It can be great for your business. It's great for your mind. You can't obsess. The big thing, one of the big takeaways is like, you can't obsess over it if you think somebody's better or you think somebody is potentially dangerous to your business because they're a new player and, oh gosh, they're going to beat me, so, don't get caught in those traps, but also, on the flip side of that, turning your head and putting blinders on doesn't keep you safe from the monsters either. Like that doesn't, like, you're not a kid where you put the covers.
Now you're freaking me out. Now you're freaking me out.
Yeah. The boogeyman can't get me if I hide under the covers. That's not true either. Right. So, so oftentimes, the boogeyman is not as scary as you thought he was. Right. Or isn't even a threat at all. But it's important, it's important to just go out there and look. And I think that there's a lot to learn. If you do this exercise, a couple of things are going to happen. One, you're going to learn something from your competition that you're going to change in your business immediately.
Yes.
You're going to say, I'm going to start changing this tomorrow.
Yeah.
And two, you're going to learn about, probably going to build up some confidence in some things that you knew you were really good at that you never gave yourself enough credit for.
Yeah. I like that. I think this is a super useful episode. Hope you listen to it more than once and share it with other people, because this podcast applies, I don't know if you could tell or not, to more than just the custom t-shirt business.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that anyone that runs a local business could benefit from, in particular, this episode. I think analyzing your competition is not done enough, and your business will be a lot better for it.
Great. And all these notes are in customapparelstartups.com. So if you go to the website and you find this episode, 182, analyze your competition, you'll see that we've put a bunch of the notes and maybe some other things in there as well. So you can write this down, and feel free to contact us and share some things that you've learned and some competitive analysis. We'd love to talk about it with you.
Yeah, love it. Okay, everybody. Thanks for listening again. This is Mark Stevenson.
And Mark Vila.
You guys have an amazing competitive business.